Welcome back to another video, folks. Today we're going to be covering the topic that is all too important. How will this second assassination attempt on the former president Donald Trump affect the 2024 election? That's coming up in less than 2 months. So first and foremost, we have to understand the gravity of the situation. Not only is this another attempt to, in the span of 2 months, we also have to put in the context that we have been promised as Americans that the Secret Service would actually prevent future incidents, that they were actually looking into this, and that the oversight over a 20-year-old weirdo being within 150 yards of shooting the president of the United States was only in abbreviation. And yet when you look at it, that externality has been proven again to be something that Donald Trump and people that are voting for him to be worried about. And so let's look into what this really affects. So to state the obvious, we have a virtually tied race in the polls. In fact, we have 7 swing states that are going to go either way this November, and let's see how that breaks down. So also, we also carry a top battleground, all of 7 of these aggregated together, and you see that Harris is leading Trump in the conventional polling by 1/10 of a point. Now again, margin of error is anywhere 3 to 4 points, and so realistically, 1/10 of a percent advantage for Kamala is nil. Now, keep in mind also, in the corner to your upper right, you'll notice that Kamala is leading the popular race and the popular vote count by 1.7 percentage points, which is behind Hillary and Biden this time 4 years ago and 8 years ago. So things aren't looking too hot for that campaign. But let's see what kind of difference we could expect with this assassination attempt on the president. Let's address what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. As you can see here, you'll notice that Donald Trump was realistically benefiting from that assassination halo effect politically. What do I mean? Most people are seen as political martyrs when they literally are about to become one, hence the Reagan bump in 1982, I believe, something like this. So let's see what kind of mathematic difference it made, though, a few months ago. Here's a really incisive poll made on the 16th of July by Reuters Ipsos. It revealed that about 86% of correspondents in this survey said that they were concerned that acts of violence would throw the country into chaos. Now, this is vital for several reasons. First and foremost, we have to understand that if already almost 9 in 10 people surveyed think that assassination attempts are likely to be more common in the future, several weeks for this election, and also that it'll throw the country into chaos, then the quasi-incumbent administration from Biden-Harris that's running against Trump are going to be negatively afflicted. Think about the riots in 2020. Where there was chaos, there was crime under Trump's watch. And granted, obviously, he was the candidate that was opposed to that, and he was the law and order candidate. That kind of didn't matter to a lot of uninformed voters as they just viewed everything through the prism of, well, things are bad, I'm going to vote against the guy in office. So without context into that, you can see how any sort of chaos at all, no matter where it's from, actually negatively impacts the incumbent administration or the vice president of said administration more than it does the underdog opponent. In this case, Donald Trump is quite literally the victim of 2 different assassination attempts. And so this 86% number logically would go up to, let's say, 92% of people that would say, well, you know what? This is chaos under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. And so this totally hurts their odds of winning. Now, how did the first assassination attempt affect voter enthusiasm among Trump's base? Because again, it's not about changing or converting the minds of people that already do not like Trump. It's about buoying support among the base, as that mathematically is more fruitful than it is to convince people in the middle. It's a numbers game, folks. So anyway, you look at party enthusiasm for Biden around the time of the assassination. You'll see that Biden's enthusiasm was 37%, completely understandable. They were dealing with the corpse. And guess what? He's still the president. But anyway, Trump's enthusiasm as a Republican candidate, though, was 70%, which is much better than Joe's, over double, in fact, but still not ideal. Why is that not ideal? Well, you look into July 25th, 2024, you'll notice that Kamala Harris's enthusiasm is actually at 81%. So if you compare that to Trump's 70% before, that is an 11% advantage for Kamala Harris. You look at Trump after the assassination, though, his enthusiasm from voters goes up to 85%. And it's probably even higher now due to the second attempt on his life, which is to say, of course, that had that not first assassination attempt happened, then Kamala would actually have the momentum. And, right now people could say, oh, she's winning, but this is due to media coverage, which is something that most people in the middle and obviously Republicans can see through very easily. That thin veil is not going to protect her for long. Politically, come November 5th, people will see. But even if you take the facts at face value, and the facts are tepid at best, obviously, because their sources are unreliable, but you see that even Trump is beating her in enthusiasm, according to people that are not really the best friends of Trump. I mean, this is a Spanish internet provider I'm using here, or a website. So obviously, this assassination factor is totally helping Trump become a martyr of sorts, and people would say a messiah figure, but basically, to play it safe rhetorically, he's totally becoming resolutely and concretely somebody who can be the flag bearer of the conservative cause in a broad sense. And people that are anti-establishment and people that are populist working class voters in the swing states that matter, such as Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, etc. Now, already, Kamala Harris is lagging behind Trump. This is with the factors of the incumbency going for her. It's kind of. She's got the benefit of the media coverage. She's got the benefit of bias moderation, obviously, a 3v1 we saw in the past week on ABC News. But generally speaking, Donald Trump is still ahead of her when it comes to base enthusiasm. Important for a multitude of reasons, as I already expounded before. But it seems like this will only be exacerbated in a good way for Donald Trump with the second attempt. Now, again, people would say to counter that well, actually, this event is not as a big a deal as was Butler, therefore there will be no difference. But it doesn't mean that at all. For instance, let's say you got in a big car accident, your insurance claim would explode, right? Now, if you get into a smaller one less than 2 months afterwards, you'd say, oh, damn, my prices will go up again. Nobody in their right mind would say, oh, well, it's smaller than the first one, so nobody's going to care. It's like, actually, yes, you will, and your pocketbook will feel that. Hence why a second attempt, even without them actually being able to shoot Trump, in the case of the attempted assassin, then clearly that would still help him politically. Another key insight, right? So experts can say something along the lines of that there was a lack of the shooter's motive, and this is referring to the one in Butler, Pennsylvania, and that his motive remains a mystery 2 months later. So think about that. The Crooks, the shooter back then, was killed on the spot, and so therefore there couldn't have been an interview. There was a lack of information, obviously. Whether you can blame that on government conspiracy or any multitude of factors, the bottom line was that dead men tell no tales. And so that story died as soon as the media stopped covering, kind of. It got memory hold, in fact. But when it comes down to Trump's second attempt, the guy who actually tried to kill Donald yesterday was, in fact, incarcerated and caught alive. And so now all of a sudden you have testimony potentially at his position that could come out. And so realistically, people that are anti-Trump would want the guy to be smoked by the Secret Service. And so therefore he couldn't be talking about how of his motivations, because obviously if your motivation is to kill Donald Trump, then clearly you're going to be either a liberal or some other nut that would make Trump look sane in comparison. And so when we eventually, hopefully this would happen, get scrutiny into what were the motivations for this guy who seems to be a pro-Ukraine nut job, you'll notice that actually Donald Trump is somebody who's the victim of media bias that is telling lies about him that then drive up the crazies on the fringes of the political left or whatever else on the political spectrum to then feel like they have the right and the obligation, even duty, to kill the former president as he is tied against Harris. And so that's interesting. People can say, oh my God, dude, how do you know the motive? Okay, well, first and foremost, he was a pro-Ukrainian guy, like extremely, like to the point where it's really awkward to watch. And mind you, Donald Trump in the debate stage against Kamala espoused things as direct as, you know what? When I'm president-elect, before even being sworn in, I will make a deal with Zelensky and Putin to end the Ukraine war immediately. Well, guess what? If you're very pro-Ukraine and anti-Russia, you hate Donald Trump for saying that. And that might have been one of the big reasons why he decided he needed to take him out. Okay? Which is awful, obviously, but that seems like a motivation, clearly, which is obviously a liberal one. Another reason why I think that this will actually help Donald Trump politically is because the Secret Service, for a second time in the same summer, it's almost fall, but anyway. So basically within a short span of time, we have the president almost dead twice. Now, the Secret Service is the most responsible for this more than anything else. And what's also clear is that their whole thing after Butler, Pennsylvania was that, oh, we're going to fix it. You know, obviously we're going to send them more security. This ended up not working, as while they did stop the shooter prior to him landing a shot on Donald Trump, they still let a guy lay around the chain link fence of a golf club for 12 hours and wait for the president, which is not a tenable thing at all. I mean, seriously, like what the hell are we thinking here? For some 58-year-old guy to be hiding under a bush with an AK scoped? Why is that allowed? And you could say, well, they didn't have the staff to secure the perimeter, but isn't that the whole point? And you could say, well, we don't have the personnel for it. What the hell? Are you kidding me? You don't have the personnel to cover Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Donald Trump in that order? Why not? 3 people. You could say, oh, we have all these other details. Why? But why though? Priorities, right? Come on, really? So anyway, the point being is that the Secret Service is going to have a shot in their credibility, which helps Donald Trump. You could say, why? Well, because, again, the vague undertone is that Donald Trump is the underdog. He is not the incumbent. And so if Kamala and Joe are basically responsible for what happens, whether that be chaos in a broad sense or assassination attempts that are frequent in another sense, you can see how any chaos at all or public distrust in any branch of the government actually reverberates and trickles down back to the buck stopping at the Oval Office. And so when you're looking at it, it actually hurts Kamala too, because how the hell is this happening? And how come there's no assassination attempts on Kamala? It seems like obviously the media, the government, the people in control are wanting the president, Donald Trump, dead. And here's the problem with that. Most people distrust the government, for one. And two, most people think the country's on the wrong track, and they see Kamala and Joe as responsible for this being the case. And so when you tell people, and people just watch the news passively, indifferently, they in passing, they'll notice, okay, they've tried to kill Trump twice this summer. Kamala's had no death threats or, whatever serious happened. And she's in control of the government, presumably. But Donald Trump is the one that's getting harassed all the time. So then who am I going to pick? The person who is presiding over a horrible economy and everything else and is not under threat, but Donald Trump, who's promising to change things, is all of a sudden under threat? You see how simple that calculation is? In fact, it harkens back to 2016, where you had Donald Trump winning over the people that were undecided, that hated either candidate, but said, you know what, screw it, let's throw a wrench into the system. And Donald Trump is getting back that second win. People thought it was gone in 2020, but realistically, it's back bigger than ever, because truly, this guy is, what could you say? There was a popular meme back in the day that said, they're not after me, I'm just in their way. They're after you, okay? Now, how much more obvious can it get when Donald Trump is promising to do X and Y, and then they try to kill him twice? It doesn't have to be this huge conspiracy, all the FBI wants, but it doesn't matter. Point is that the media is getting these far left liberals hyped up in a way that right-wing media doesn't do. Nobody's trying to kill Kamala over something Sean Hannity said, but you damn well know that there's plenty of Democrats that are feeding into this narrative of Trump being this dictator, disgusting, oh, he's going to ruin everything. So then what the hell do you think people are going to do but to take him out then, if that's what the rhetoric is? Okay? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But anyway. Here we have a relatively low level politician, I think a Democrat delegate from the Virgin Islands, something like this. She says something, I think there's a Freudian slip here that is a little inappropriate, so bear with me as we listen. Watch.
Having Trump not only have had the codes, but now having the classified information for Americans and being able to put that out and share it in his resort with anyone and everyone who comes through should be terrifying to all Americans, and he needs to be stopped. Having
Freudian slip. So here's the bottom line with that statement from that black lady, okay? Did she call for the death of Donald Trump? Not really, but it kind of shows where your mind is going at, where you say, oh, he needs to be stopped, but instead of saying that, you say he needs to be shot. It's disgusting. Why? Well, because that's what a lot of these people on the fringes of the Democratic media establishment and some of those politicians, that's what they really want to happen. Some of them do want him dead, and that's obviously something that people in middle America do not want to see. And so it just kind of shows the disconnect between the hegemonic elites in a vague sense, but also people that are just surveying the news at the most basic level. I mean, you look at this New York Post editorial, so to speak, and you see that second assassination attempt again. Trump targeted with gunmen with AK-47 yards away from where he golfed. Suspected left-wing nut. Ex-president says he's safe and well. That's the bottom line. That's what people will see at the grocery store. This is what people will see looking at the news at the bar. This is the news, and it's horrible. It's horrible. And like I said, that person in that Twitter clip I showed you encapsulates the fringes of the liberal establishment that are amping up weirdos like this pro-Ukraine sicko in the bottom middle of the screen. As you'll notice that this guy has blue and yellow hair dyed on his head because what? Representing Ukraine. These people think they're on a mission to stop a dictator. And who fed them the conspiracy that he's a dictator? Everybody you remember, Kamala, Joe, all these people. They're all responsible in a very tangential sense, for sure. All right, so to really get to the bottom line of the video, how does this affect the election? I'll give you the elevator pitch. Basically, Donald Trump has further been cemented as somebody who is a standard bearer for the causes that resonate with the majority of the country. This extends to virtually every Republican. Also, a majority of independents. A lot of people that did not like Donald Trump before, softened their image of him after he was nearly murdered in Butler, Pennsylvania. But they also get a reminder that this is a very, very real threat as well when he goes 2 months without incident. But then now there was a big one. And so the image of the people that don't like him will not change fundamentally. What I mean is that they don't think that he should be president, but they also don't have as strong of opinion. So you will see on the fringes of people that lean Democrat that they will not probably turn out as much as they otherwise would have, which is a marginal number to be honest, but it helps. And then Republicans will be all the more enthused to vote for him this November. So I think this second assassination attempt boosts Trump's odds by maybe 2%. And you might say, wow, 2% out of 100. That's really, what, nothing. And you know what, to be clear, I mean, it's a lesser situation than Butler. So of course it would not be as big, but it's still remarkable too. And so let's actually address this election prospect. So as you can see here, obviously, Kamala and Trump are more or less tied, not to get into the weeds of it. So let's kind of assess what happens here. So first and foremost, we have a state like North Carolina, which is probably going for Trump at this point. We also have Georgia that's also probably going for Trump. We have Arizona that is very strongly for Trump. It might be the most Republican state out of the 7, if not North Carolina. But anyway, Georgia's up there too. Nevada will go similar to Arizona as they're basically, I wouldn't say the same. That's a little, not bigoted, but not trying to cut corners here, but they're very similar states, arid, dry. Anyway, 268 for Trump, 226 for Harris. Let's see how these last 3 states go down. The most likely to go Republican out of the 3 on top is going to be Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. Fracking, especially how it was litigated in the debate, actually is a really, really big winning issue for Republicans, and namely Trump, who has a euphemism about having liquid gold below thy feet. And so therefore, he's going to have a very good enthusiasm boost from said workers that voted for him in 2016 over Hillary. And some of them actually went for Joe in 20, but they're coming right back. And so anyway, I think that Wisconsin's probably the next one up. Now, you might say Michigan is more conservative in this election than is Wisconsin, but historically it's been the other way around. And the polling has been notoriously bad in Wisconsin anyhow. Need I remind you more than the fact that they had a plus 17 Biden result as of September of 2020 itself in Wisconsin. Okay, so 4 years ago today, they had Biden winning by 17. The official result had Biden winning by less than 1. And so Wisconsin polls are not accurate. So I think Trump will win Wisconsin. I think Michigan is more so a stretch, but Trump is leading there, in my opinion, as well. Again, this election is more than likely going to Trump. Prior to a few days ago, you could have said, okay, Trump has a 60-40 chance of beating Kamala. I'll boost that up to, let's say, 62-38. So yes, this does definitely help Donald Trump, that assassination attempt. And I'm not trying to be, callous or not care about it. I'm just trying to give you what the brass tacks is, in my opinion. Obviously, the polls will come out with outlays as to how specifically people poll and surveyed care about what happened in Florida. But this is just the prognostication as of for now. So anyway, like the video if you've gone this far. Comment down below if you have any disagreements, any sort of constructive criticism. And subscribe if you haven't yet. I'll see y'all on the next one. Adios.